We're leading in Ohio. We're leading in North Carolina. We're leading all over the place.
We're having a tremendous problem in Utah. Now, Utah's a different place.
This year, Utah is different. Not deep red, but purple. The Mormon voters there just don't like Donald Trump.
We're going to make a strong play to win Utah's electoral votes.
And Trump is getting squeezed by native son Evan McMullin.
Hello, Utah.
The 40-year-old conservative Mormon has been a CIA operative, a congressional staffer for the GOP. But in August, he announced an independent run for president, calling himself the true conservative alternative to Trump. And the latest polls show he's got a real shot at winning his home state.
If we can send a strong message here from Utah, it will change the discussion in Washington and across this country.
And Evan McMullin joins us now. Mr. McMullin, thank you for joining us this morning. You're in Boise, Idaho, another state you're contesting right now. If you win Idaho or Utah, where you're really competing well right now, you'd be the first third-party candidate since George Wallace to win a state. So what would that mean exactly? What message would that send?
Well, it has the potential of blocking both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in the Electoral College, but that's only if the race between Hillary and Donald is close.
Yeah, that's a real stretch.
Right now it isn't, right? Well, yeah, right now it's not. Donald Trump is being dominated right now by Hillary Clinton, and which is one of the reasons Mindy Finn, my running mate, and I warned against nominating him in the first place. But if it isn't close, then it will be a strong message, I think, to Washington that people in this country, at least here in the Mountain West and elsewhere in the country, still stand on principle. The very same principles that made this country the most powerful and prosperous on earth, namely the truth that we are all created equal, all men and women, and that we all have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mindy and I are standing for these fundamental principles and truths, and that's our message.
The top elected officials in the state of Utah, top Republican elected officials in the state of Utah have been very critical of Donald Trump. People like Senator Mike Lee said they will not support him. Mitt Romney, who of course did very well in Utah, has said he's against Donald Trump as well. Would a public endorsement from him help you carry this state, and where do things stand right now?
Well, right now we're either tied with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump or leading in the polls, so we feel very good about where we are. We're depending on the endorsements and the support of regular people across this country and in these Mountain West states. They are the ones who are funding our campaign. They are supporting us. They are carrying our message online, on social media. And that's the support that we care about. We've invited Republican leaders to join us in this cause. The reality is that the vast majority of Republican leaders are putting party ahead of principle and putting power over the interests of their own country. And that's the challenge that we have going forward. That's the challenge that this country has. That's the challenge that the Republican Party will have. And that's the challenge that the conservative movement has, which is why Mindy and I are calling for a new conservative movement in this country.
What is that movement?
That movement, simply put, is a movement that is dedicated to these principles that I'm talking about, namely the equality of all men and women. We are standing also for the cause of liberty, the idea that we all ought to have the power and the freedom to pursue happiness in the way we like. Right now you have a party in the Republican Party that turns away people of different races, turns away people of different religions. That's not to say that all Republicans feel this way. I was certainly raised among Republicans who are open to people of different backgrounds. But the reality is that even after 2012, the Republican Party knew that it needed to do more to appeal to minorities and to women and to millennials. And the reality is it hasn't been able to do that. And in fact, it's going in the wrong direction, not the right direction, in its nomination of Donald Trump. But then also in standing by Trump, even as he continues these bigoted, sexist, xenophobic messages to the United States, to the people of our country.
It seems like there's going to be a civil war in the Republican Party no matter what happens on November 8th.
Yes, I think that's true. But the reality is there was a battle after 2012, too. And look where we are. Look where the Republican Party is with Donald Trump. It's just unlikely, I believe, and Mindy believes, it's unlikely that the Republican Party will be able to make the kinds of changes it needs to make after this election. These are generational problems. So maybe over time, over a number of decades, these changes can be made. But the reality is the conservative movement doesn't have time for that. And if the Republican Party can't make the changes as it wasn't able to do after 2012, The conservative movement will need a new political vehicle. So at the very least, I believe that's a new conservative movement along the lines that I've described here. It may mean a new conservative party. We'll just have to see. But Mindy and I are skeptical, sadly, that the Republican Party is going to be able to make the changes it needs to make.
Is it fair to conclude you prefer a President Clinton to a President Trump?
I think they're both terrible, and I've described, George, what I think in this country is a leadership crisis. And I think both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and the American people recognize this. These are the two most unpopular major party candidates ever to be nominated since we were measuring those kinds of sentiments. And the American people know that they need better, that they deserve better. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump personify this crisis, but it's not just them. It's our other leaders. It's our leaders who wouldn't stand up to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in the primaries because they were afraid that they were going to be criticized or that they would lose their seats in Congress, for example. Unfortunately, our leaders today, George, don't have the courage to stand up for Americans, to stand up for equality and liberty. They've allowed the racist message of Donald Trump to spread throughout the country. They've allowed the government in Washington, D.C. to grow and grow to the extent that it's depriving people of their liberties. We can't stand for this any longer. We need a new conservative movement that I think will provide the kind of leadership to this country that it needs.
Evan McMullin, thanks very much.
Thank you, George.
Our Powerhouse Roundtable coming up. Plus, John Carl takes us inside the battle for control of Congress. And Martha Raddatz on the ground in Iraq.